Okay, so in this video, I'm going over angle relationships, and our essential question is, what are angle relationships? So we are specifically looking at parallel lines cut by a transversal. My parallel lines are these two lines, and my transversal is the line that goes through them, which is this line up here. So if I take a look at this picture, I can see that some of these angles will be congruent. I'll have angles 1 and 4, 5 and 8 all be congruent to each other. And then I will have angles 2, 3, 6, and 7 be congruent with each other there. So the green and orange are different congruencies because they're different sizes, but they are all congruent with each other. One thing I want to point out is sometimes the parallel lines with their angles will not always be numbered in this way, so you have to look at how it is numbered to know which ones are congruent, because sometimes it goes sideways and then sometimes it goes down 2 number instead. So just pay attention to where you're looking at for the numbering. So the first special kind of angle pair we have are vertical angles. We've talked about this one before. Vertical angles are across from each other and they share a vertex. These angles will always be congruent to each other. Remember, congruent means that they have the same angle measured. Okay, so here I have 2 and 3 showing you what an example of vertical angles looks like, and then I go ahead and I write them out. So the vertical angles in this diagram are 1 and 4, 2 and 3, 5 and 8, and 6 and 7. They're across from each other on the vertex on the pieces that look like an X. The next type of angle pair I have is linear pairs. We've also talked about this one before. These are two angles that share a side and form a line. They are supplementary angles, which means they add up to 180 degrees. And then I have the linear pairs marked right there. So 1 and 2 make a linear pair. And they add up to 180 degrees, remember? The linear pairs in this picture are 1 and 2, 1 and 3, because it also has a, let me see, do I have, yeah. So it also has these two make a line, and these two make a line. Then I also have 2 and 4, so those two make a line. 3 and 4, line right there. 5 and 6, 5 and 7, 6 and 8, and 7 and 8. So linear pairs, there are 8 of them on this graph diagram. Next type of angle pair is corresponding angles. This is a new one, and it's special whenever I have parallel lines. So corresponding angles are two angles that are on the same places on the parallel lines. So for example, if it's in the top, let me move this on here. So if it's in the top left corner on the top line, it'll be on the top left corner on the bottom line. These angles are congruent when my lines are parallel. So my corresponding angles in this one are 1 and 5, 2 and 6, 3 and 7, and 4 and 8. My next angle pair type is alternate interior angles. These are two angles that are on opposite sides of the transversal. Remember that line that's going through the middle, between the parallel lines. They are also congruent. So the word alternate means opposite. The word interior means inside. So I'm looking for angles that are opposite each other, opposite the line, on opposite sides of the transversal inside the parallel lines. So here's an example right here. 4 and 5 are alternate interiors. And the other one is 3 and 6 because they are on opposite sides of that transversal inside the parallel lines. And I've already said 5 and 4. The next one is alternate exterior angles. These ones are on opposite sides of the transversal outside of the parallel lines. So just like before, alternate means opposite, exterior means this time outside. Okay, so here's an example. I have those two, they're on opposite sides of the transversal, outside of the parallel lines. So my first example here is 1 and 8, and my second one is 2 and 7. Okay. Then the next thing I have is consecutive interior angles. So these ones are on the same side of the transversal between the parallel lines. These types of angles are supplementary, so these are the ones that add up to 180 degrees. So consecutive means in order, and interior means inside. So if I take a look, here's an example. 3 and 5 are both on the same side of the transversal, and they are inside the parallel lines. So that's my first set of consecutive interior angles, and then my second one is going to be 4 and 6. The next one is consecutive exterior angles. So these are on the same side of the transversal, outside of the parallel lines. These ones are also supplementary, because if I cut them up and put them together, it would make a straight line. So consecutive in order, exterior, outside. So here's an example of consecutive exterior, 7 and 1, both on the same side of the transversal, outside of those parallel lines. So this is the first set of consecutive angles that I have, 1 and 7, and the other one is 2 and 8, because those are both on the same side of the transversal, outside of the parallel lines. Okay. And then I have a quick example. It says that given that A is parallel to line B, find the measures of the other 7 angles. So here I have a diagram. I have A and B are parallel, and I know one measure is 120 degrees. So if I take a look at this, I know that angle 2, because it's a linear pair with 120 degrees, has to add up to 180. So if I did 180 minus 2, it would give me 60 degrees. So the measure of angle 2 is 60 degrees. Same thing with angle 3, it makes a straight line with 120. So I subtract from 180, I also get 60 degrees. 120 and angle 4 are vertical angles, so that means they're opposite each other and they're congruent. Congruent means the same, so angle 4 is 120 degrees. Okay. Then I have angle 5, which is a corresponding angle to 120, means they're on the same spot on the parallel lines. When they're in the same spot, they have the same measure. This is also 120 degrees. Angle 6 is a consecutive exterior angle with 120, which means it's on the same side of the transversal, outside of the parallel lines. This adds up to 180 degrees. So I want to take 180 and subtract the 120, and I get 60 degrees. Angle 7 has no relationship to 120, but is corresponding to angle 3, which would make it the same. And it's also a vertical angle to 6, which would make it the same as that, both of which are 60-degree angles. Angle 8 is an alternate exterior angle to 120, which also means they're congruent. So I have measure of angle 8 is 120 degrees.